Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Do we see uh, dark clouds ahead? I think we might. The start of maybe another another down spell. But the Sharks lose tonight, 4-0 against the Avalanche, and we're coming right at you after this.
Hey everybody, this is John Scott, former Sharks All-Star MVP, and you are listening to another Teal Town USA podcast.
But first, if you want to be a part of the show, please follow us on all of the social media pages at Teal Town USA. Of course, that's on the Twitter machine, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, and the Discord where all the shenanigans happen. And, of course, hit us up on the website, tealtownusa.com. Oh, boy. It's a therapy edition, and I'm really, really happy to bring in Al Martinet. Al, how are you doing? How are we feeling?
About the same for you. Rough game all around. Coming off the 6-2 win, you would have thought that would have carried over into something for tonight's game, but just a rough game all around, no consistency, but we'll definitely get into that.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right, and let's just jump right into it, shall we? The Sharks hold the Avalanche to a 0-0 score in that first period. And, I mean, if we just go over to the shots on goal here, it was pretty evenly matched, 10-9 in favor of Colorado. But I just thought that the Sharks played a really good game. I liked their contain. And, the defensive effort, I think, was there in that first period. What did you see, Al?
Up until like the halfway of the second period, the Sharks played smart, kept the Colorado Avalanche from, into their transition game, and kept McKinnon off the board. Most of the shots were away from Jones, were far away, and they were pretty easy save opportunities. And I thought the shots that the Sharks got were pretty decent. Like, it was pretty back and forth game. Could have gone either way, but as long as you handle their speed, I think you can handle the Avalanche. But when you start turning over the puck, that's the issue.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. And the structure, I think, was pretty good in that first period. I thought there wasn't a lot of bad mistakes in the neutral zone, although there were a few here and there. And yeah, I just felt like it was kind of Coyotes-esque in a way, where it was kind of hard to watch that first period just because they didn't seem to really get a lot of back and forth play. It was more like, the Sharks would be down in their end for, a couple minutes, and then Colorado would come back, and the McKinnon line would hem, Couture's line in, and Martin Jones made some pretty good saves. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. It just seemed like they were clogged in the middle tonight, and I liked that from a perspective of preventing, Nathan McKinnon to score. But the Sharks also have to do a little bit better job forechecking, I think, and puck retrievals. I don't know. That was, to me, where they could have maybe stepped it up a little bit.
As long as you control the neutral zone, that helps stop the breakouts, that helps control a lot of their speed. And I really do focus on the speed for the Avalanche because all four lines have it. They can be physical at times too. They are a dangerous team. They are an easy Stanley Cup favorites for that reason. It's their only major flaw is their goaltending. And Grubauer is honestly pretty streaky. Like, again, he was really good tonight, but like there's times when he can be a bottom of the barrel, not even a starter on a hockey team. So that's their main weakness.
No,
But
I
for the
I tend to agree, and we want to thank Darius for the super chat donation. Yeah, the 5 minute major, we'll get there, but in that first period, I think we're just kind of going through how it was, just a slog. It was just a slog, and I think that was the Sharks' game plan because, quite frankly, I think going into this, you had to figure that Colorado would be upset about how they played on Monday night. So that you figured they would come out and really push strong, and I like the fact that the Sharks were defensively okay, and I saw some other good signs too. I mean, I saw Erik Karlsson doing some pirouettes. I saw him moving the puck a little bit better. And it ends up showing up on the stats tonight. He's not a negative. He doesn't have a minus next
Yeah.
to his name. Shots on goal too. And he's of course logging 22 minutes of ice time. So if you're logging 22 minutes of ice time and you're a net, a net even, that's pretty good. So
Yeah, Burns was a -3 tonight. Couture was a -3 tonight.
yeah.
So not a great showing for those two. Burns can, put up a -4 and then a +4 the following day. He can be really consistent. But, the thing I get back to with the Sharks is this is the 7th game in a row where they've lost the faceoff percentage every single time. And
Yeah.
that's kind of just been the way this season is.
Yeah, no, I think going into the season, I questioned the center depth of this team. I think we kind of all questioned the center depth of the team. But really, I mean, without Hurdle, you can just see how tough it is for this team to win a face-off, and let alone drive play. It just seems like every time that they take a face-off, they lose momentum. Every time they lose it and they have to retreat back out, it's just a lost momentum. And of course, going into that second period, how does Mikko Rantanen get on the board? It comes off of a face-off, and it's Nathan MacKinnon and Landeskog getting the assists there in that second period. Mikko Rantanen with his 9th. But again, you're absolutely right, Al. It's about the face-offs. It's about controlling the puck behind the net, and I didn't think the Sharks did that tonight, especially in that second period.
I think there was a power play halfway through around the 9-minute mark that the Sharks had. And afterwards, it seemed like all the momentum went straight to the Avalanche. And that led to their 2-0 goal lead. That, like it or not, maybe Jones should have had it or not, but it felt that was kind of the turning point, and there was no looking back for this because you kind of sensed that was kind of it. Just the way the Avalanche were moving the puck, and the shot opportunities for the Sharks were just not there tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the way that they were playing, they were kind of more focused, laser focused on the defensive side of the puck. And I think that their offense really suffered because of it, because I think that they were in such a prevent Nathan MacKinnon, prevent that top line from scoring. They didn't play their game. You know what I mean? They didn't play that speedy transitional game. So I don't know if that was the game plan, because Bugner's thinking, okay, Colorado's not going to open it up 2 games in a row, or if that was Colorado saying, hey, we want to lock them down because they seem like they can skate with us for the most part. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, going in, I kind of expected a similar result to what we got tonight. I mean, scoring 6 goals back-to-back nights is well above the average for this team this whole season. I think we were bottom of the barrel for, I think, like ranked 24th, 23rd for goals per game this season. That's kind of what I kind of expected, even with Hurdle out. That's You're just looking for offense from your young forwards or even some of your veterans.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, where is, I wonder. This is like a missing in action, kind of like Timo Meyer moment again. And I think today, to me at least, the offensive players that I wish I would have seen more from. I saw LeBanc, given a damn in the third period, but it seemed like in that first period he was a little sleepy, and um, I felt the same way about Timo's game, where it was like, okay, he's trying to forecheck, but he's not putting his body into it, right? I mean, it's kind of like going through the motions, and so yeah, there was just inconsistency across the forward lines tonight. The fourth line didn't really do much for me. Joachim Blichfeld and Alexander True on that fourth line, and I wasn't. I guess I wasn't unhappy with their defensive effort, but again, it's like you want to, at least if you're a fourth line, carry some momentum into your next lines. And I just felt that the whole night tonight, the Sharks could never really get it in gear.
Yeah, you're right. Bad face-off percentage, lack of a consistent power play, and just a lack of offensive presence in Grubauer's zone. Yeah, they had offensive chances. A couple of pucks hit the post a couple of times, but it was just Jones had to deal with a lot tonight, and sometimes he bailed them out. Sometimes you can kind of sense that he was kind of lacking energy. And I'm not really too sure there's anyone else but Jones. Dubnyk might get a couple of starts, and there might be a sense of a competition, but it's really his job. Especially after that 7-6 loss. He had a shot, but
yeah, I'm just looking at that that goal in the second period, Al, and I mean, okay, so they cycle it behind the net, it comes in, and it just looks like they get the quick wrister off. I don't think it looked like a full slap shot. It was kind of like a Brent Burns no, it was a slap shot. It was a slap shot.
Yeah.
And so it was pulled behind the net. It goes out to that stationary post on the left-hand side over by the face-off dot, and then goes into the one-timer. And I think for me, Jones is really, he's contending with a guy kind of going right in front of him. So I'm wondering, where's the defender? And that would be, looks like Logan. It's like, why is Logan not plastered to Mikko Rantanen? And so maybe tonight it wasn't about the defensemen's mistakes, but maybe it was the forwards, and maybe they just didn't track well tonight. I don't know. But on that first goal, yeah, I can see what you mean with wanting Martin Jones to kind of front that puck a little bit better and get set a little bit quicker, because it looked like they were catching him napping.
Yeah, especially on that first goal. And not a strong recovery. You could have seen him a little bit better position, of course. But that glove hand side just tends to be an issue.
Yeah, that
also
glove.
High blockers. Yeah. The high blocker side, top left corner. A lot of goal scorers tend to aim for that spot. So either people have figured out that if he passes left or right, he's just not going to shuffle that far to the other direction.
Yeah. No, I see that in him too. And I mean, it just kind of, we can illustrate that with the number of posts that have been hitting this year, and especially the crossbars. It seems like everybody's got the book on Jonesy, where it's just like, you got to go high on him. You can go high glove. He's vulnerable there, and you can go high blocker. And yeah. And so that's kind of the book is out on him. And so, going into that third period, you're like, okay, I hope that the Sharks can bring something here. Let's see if they have some bite back. But unfortunately, they just still don't have any jam. And then we get to the call du jour. But let's go over the first goal first before we get into the major, because I have my
You talking about the
opinions
first
about
goal
this.
in the third period or the
Yeah,
first
first
goal in
third,
general?
first goal in the third period.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. This is just I just see a team drained after a lot of. I think this was after two consistent power plays from the Avalanche. This just looks like poor rebound control and a lack of defensive presence.
yeah.
Um, Burns could have been a little bit of better position, but um, you know,
But
this
I mean,
is
this
yeah.
not only that though, Al. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing that nobody's screening Jones. There's nobody in front of him,
Yeah.
and it goes in low glove. Like, as a goaltender, that's, if you can't get low glove, that there's something really wrong there. I feel like we're
Yeah.
questioning his fundamentals again, and this was the issue last year. It was, okay, we'll give him a year with Nabby. Maybe Nabby can work on his fundamentals a little bit more. Work on a little bit more of the aggressiveness, a little bit more of the playing big. And the thing is, to me, Martin Jones looks like he's playing small again. And he goes through this really weird curve of playing like the 6'4" goaltender he is, and then playing like, a 5'11" goaltender, where he kind of just
Yeah.
kind of hunches his back over. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this arched back where it's almost at like a 70-degree angle instead of a perfect upright 90-degree angle, which will give the shooter a little bit less net to see. But yet he's not doing that, and he's already down in the butterfly. I mean, at this point, the puck is at the point, and he's trying to. You got to commit to either the stand up or the butterfly quicker than he is. It just seems like his reactions are just not good again, and it's on the fundamentals.
When I would say this also applies to every goaltender, but when Jones loses his confidence in the net, he doesn't play like a starting goaltender. He plays like someone who's more like a backup, more like someone who, like you said, not playing big in net, not chasing angles. That's kind of like the bigger issue is when he loses confidence. This more or less applies to both the goals in the third period. I'll just kind of get to the fourth goal and Ranson scored. He just kind of scoots over and not really hurries back, and Ranson just kind of dumps the puck into the net.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, we got another take here from the chat, and I think that this is good. I like the constructive feedback, and I like the fan interaction. So this is perfect here. It's Eric, you're completely off tonight. It's not as if you're talking about as Jones is not good enough and was not competitive enough. If you can't win, if you don't score, had the Sharks lost by 1 or 2, then nitpick. But I think that the point here, though, is that there are days where he plays differently. There are days where he fronts the puck differently, and I think it goes to confidence. Al, I think you're completely right. When he's confident, he plays like a bigger player, and I think that
yeah.
that's what we're trying to get at here.
Also, I will say though that the last 3 years, the defense in front of him has played a lot worse. And that's not on Erik Karlsson. That is just, the defense has broken down, allowed rebound control, rebounds to just stay in the zone longer, um, even after he's made great saves. Um, you know, there has to be something that's, along the lines of the forwards getting back. But when Jones is good, he controls his rebounds. He knows where he wants to be, and he's controlling all three phases. There are some phases right now that he's just not so great on right now, and rebound control has been an issue all season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're on to something there with the rebound control. I mean, you're talking about this power play goal where Jones is down. He's in the butterfly. He looks like he's got Landeskog, and what ends up happening is he can't freeze the puck. He just doesn't swipe at it. Doesn't really do much to try and freeze that puck. And maybe you could say Ferraro needs to move him out of the net, a little bit quicker, or maybe Gambrell needs to play a little bit harder on that. But yeah, there are some concerning signs. I don't think that was the most concerning. I think the most concerning is just the lack of offensive zone time tonight. I mean, when Logan Couture is,
Yeah.
pretty much defending all night, that's not a good sign, because that's your top line, and that means your top line's getting dominated. Um,
I mean,
and
this was I want to say it was a bad night, but this was an off night for McKinnon. If we're talking about him having a superstar night, this is a lopsided affair.
yeah, no, and to me, man, I'm team Nate McKinnon all the way. I mean, don't get me wrong, Connor McJesus is Connor McJesus, but I think the burners on Nathan McKinnon are just awesome. And when that kid is on, I think he's the best player in the world. So, kudos to him. But yeah, he's having an off night, and yet, they torch him, and so it's concerning. It's concerning. And I think the concerning part is that when the team plays on instinct, and when it plays like it's having fun, they seem to play a lot better. But when they start overthinking it, and when they start to really kind of bear down, and when things aren't going right for them, they tend to shell up, and I think that we saw that kind of prevalent after that second goal for sure. But yeah, I think that it's all about the mental fortitude of this team, and quite frankly, I question that at times.
So I guess I'll just kind of, the last thing I'll say about the second period is that the second period has just been the enemy for the Sharks all season, and they've only won the second period 2 times all year. Like, they're 2 for 11 all this season. That's the story right now. And right now, I would say if you're the Sharks, if you're a player on the team, and that second period rolls around, you're just not sure if you're going to hold on to that lead. That's just nothing about the line mates, nothing about the defensemen. That's just karma on the ice, like just the positive vibes you're thinking about. And I have to wonder if that's playing something right now for the Sharks.
Yeah, I think that that's really a valid point. I think that I've had issues with their second period, with their shift lengths. When they are really on top of their game, and especially when I'm thinking of the first Colorado game, the game the other night, and then in the St. Louis game as well, they were taking short shifts. They were getting back to their boards, and maybe being on the ice for 45, 50 seconds. But when you see the team, a minute and 20, minute and 40, minute and 20, minute and 30, it's a recipe for disaster. It really, really is. And when you see a guy like, Kevin LeBanc dogging it, or you see maybe a Dylan Gambrell, not getting back to the bench quick enough, or hell, I mean, Burns is guilty of it too. And when they don't change more frequently in that second period, I've noticed that teams really pick up on that.
The Sharks are paying Kevin LeBanc to be a top 6 forward, and there's no way he's a top 6 forward this year. Just the performance and what he brings to the ice, there's no way he's a top 6 forward. Maybe he might be maybe a third liner, but this season been kind of disappointed for him.
Yeah, I agree. And oh boy, I I don't know really where we can go from there in those second periods. And again, it's going to come down to the team being disciplined and the team, really holding each other accountable. And right now, I see a team that is timid at times. It can really shell up, and I don't know if that's a symptom of the coaching or if that's a symptom of the locker room or if it's both. But all I can tell you is that there have only been a few select times that I've really seen the team have fun and really like are smiling with each other and really just in looking like they are wanting to be there. Tonight was one of those nights where they just didn't have it, and it just really shows. It shows on the it shows on the scoreboard tonight. And thank you for I think it's AJ Man in the Teal Town account tonight. So thanks, AJ. Paradian Dater of Colorado, Hockey Now. Early word on McKinnon seems to be that he's okay, and I agree. Not agree, but I'm glad that he's okay. It looked a little scary when they were carting him off. So I guess let's go into that then. So Joachim Blichfeld tonight, he takes that match penalty at 8:08 in the third period, and he's going into his bench because he's trying to make a change, and Nathan MacKinnon is caught with his head down, not looking in front of him, and kind of in that no man's land, where you're in the neutral zone, you got your head down, and it's just one puck scurrying by, away from a guy checking you in the head. But man, I saw it as Blichfeld has established a path that he's going on. He doesn't move when he's going towards the bench. He's got a clear line to the bench. He's skating in a straight line, and Nate MacKinnon kind of is there and is not paying attention, and they collide. I saw that more as a collide than a guy trying to finish his check. I mean, what did you see on it, Al?
So whenever you slow things down, it looks far worse. That's just the nature of instant replay. And my first reaction when I saw the hit, I thought it was just a normal hit and it looked too bad. But when I saw the secondary angle, when you see the numbers, it looks like Blichfeld is extending his shoulder just a little bit, and if anything, that's why he got ejected. And maybe that's why MacKinnon got a little bit concussed. But I think it was right to throw him out of the game for that, but not any suspension that's going to cost him next game or the following games.
Well, that's the thing, though. They assessed him a match, right? So it's going to be, it's going to be looked at for more supplemental discipline, and it has to be. It's an automatic review with a match penalty.
Sure.
And the reason, the problem that I have with it is that they call it a match, and that means it's intent to injure. That means that they've clearly established motive here, that Blichfeld went out of his way to injure the player. Now, again, I see it as Blichfeld traveling in a straight line and not changing his trajectory at all. And you've got a mid-ice collision. Now, it's definitely head contact for sure. I am not making the argument that there was not head contact there.
Yeah.
But I would have called the 2-minute incidental head contact, 2-minute. Hey, sorry, I just got a text message from Puck Guy, and he threw me off, threw the mojo off. But I
Is that
saw
the
it as
AOL
the incident.
AOL
Yeah,
mojo?
exactly. And so I would have erred on the. I would have erred on the incidental head contact, the 2-minute, because I don't see intent to injure on that play. But if somebody in the chat wants to say, on the otherwise, because I mean, we're definitely open to wanting to hear from you guys and gals.
So was it
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
3-0 or was it 4 or was it 2-0 at the time?
2-0, 2-0.
2-0. All right. Because my other thought is that they threw him out because he must have broken one of the unwritten rules, is going after one of your star players. And McKinnon is one of the star players for the Avalanche. And no offense to Blumfield, he's working his way up. Maybe he might be a third or fourth stringer, but he's trying to make some waves in the locker room. And so Randy and Hedican kind of like pointed out that a couple of the Avs players were mad at Blumfield. So I'm assuming that was kind of one of the things of he might have broken one of the so-called, unspoken rules. Don't go after your star of the opposing star player or even anyone in that regard during a blowout.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I can see that particular point of view. They could have been like, okay, this is a small time kid on a superstar, and we got to throw the book at the kid because you can't do that in the third period when you're down 2-0.
Yeah,
but man, match penalties to me are so difficult because they signal that the player intended to injure, right? That to me is the big sticking point of a match, is that the refs know for a fact that this was either retaliatory or there was beef with each other, or some extenuating circumstance, or like a guy chicken wings somebody to really get him. I don't see it, but I'd love to hear from somebody who did see it that way, and tell me why they think it's the way that it is, because I don't see it at all.
What have you thought of the coach's performance this year, just in general? This is actually a question from the chat.
Yeah. This was a chat question. Okay, yeah, this is by Denver Doyle. I'll go ahead and add this up there. Thoughts on Bugner's performance this year? Do you think he is the right coach for this team going into next year? Well, I think it's all going to really depend on what the Sharks front office is thinking the team is. If they're thinking that this team is somehow better than their record states and somehow better than the statistics would bear out, they're not gonna make a change, right? Because they just re-signed Bugner, and I think it was a 3-year contract extension, and to me, they have their guy. Now, do I agree that he should have been their guy? No. I think that there were enough coaching candidates that were difference makers out there that they should have at least interviewed, right? And that's kind of the problem that I had, was it was just they seemed laser focused in on Bob, from the very beginning, and maybe it was due to the pandemic and not wanting to have to pay somebody you don't know. It's the devil I guess. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. To me, Boogie is a good assistant, but not. I don't think he's creative enough to be a head coach. What do you think, Al?
There's been a couple of times this season where I felt he's cost the team like 1 or 2 points, leaving Marleau out in an overtime game. He doesn't have the wheels anymore. Let's just face it about Marleau. But there's been just a couple of times where I felt that he was outcoached and definitely was a disadvantage for the Sharks. And I feel like he's a stepping stone for the next coach when the Sharks eventually, hopefully, turn it around. Um, that's kind of where I stand, and I think there's still. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they let go to Peter DeBoer. They don't want to let go another coach, so that would make 3 coach salaries on the books. So
No, actually, so Peter DeBoer came off the books because Vegas picked him up. So they had that whole rule where if you get picked up, then you don't have to pay the salary. So they got out of that. So they would only be paying for Bugner if they ended up firing him. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that this team is a coach away from doing something special. That's the problem. I think we've all zeroed in on this as being an issue of construction, not of direction. I mean, unless that's changed for you, Al. What do you think on that?
I think we're like 4 years out from even like being contenders again, and that's being optimistic. And every long-term decision that was signed in 2017, you can go through the list: Timo, LeBanc, and Kane and Eric Carlson. Those are going to be exhausting contracts. That's not even considering Jones. So
yeah,
this is a long-term rebuild, and we have never gone through, or at least the fan base has never gone something like this before. So
I mean, I think maybe the early years are the closest equivalent to when this team, really struggled mightily, like what we're talking about going through, right?
true, but in terms of contract strapped, we're
I
strapped
don't think
for
it's ever been this bad as far as
no.
contract straps go.
Yeah,
Like after Burns got the whiff of the 7-year deal, right, and they set that precedent, and they got rid of the 5-year deals, which were always I thought that those were always the best of both worlds. You get them for an extended amount of time. You get the player, under a good cap hit, and it was just it worked well for both because if you were 28 and you got that 5-year deal, you're going into 33. That's not bad. That's not bad. And when Brent Burns reset the structure of the team and how they deal contracts, that's when we got the Vlasic contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when we got I think Logan will do well through his contract. I don't see him being a problem, and I don't see him because there's too many other things that he does around the ice and not just his offense. So, I think Couture could really live up to his contract. But you're absolutely right. I mean, Evander Kane coming in and getting that contract, and then
it
the
was
next
supposed
year,
to be the Pavelski contract.
yeah.
That was yeah. But like all the contracts aside, Doug Wilson assumed that he was going to have a certain amount of cap space, this year and the next year. But COVID really did hurt the Sharks in a huge financial way, and just tremendously bad timing. Because
I think COVID.
if the Sharks would have had 1 year later, or actually 1 year, I would say now, they might have gotten Eric Carlson at a really discount price. So
So I think AJ again with the stat for us, and appreciated AJ real quick. The Brent Burns contract was 8x8. So yes, he was the first of the real kind of restructuring in the way that the Sharks, went about adding contracts to the books, and boy,
by the way, he has actually earned that contract. 8x8.
I think. Go ahead.
The one contract that and rightfully so, everyone looks at is probably Vlasic. Like his game has kind of fallen off, and
Well,
I love
I
him,
don't
but
think. I love him too, man. And we saw him at his peak with Bronny, right? And in those
yeah,
years of you could just throw Vlasic and Braun against Ovechkin or Crosby, and they would. I mean, you remember
shut him down.
Sidney Crosby, yeah, exactly, being so
Yeah,
just flippant. He's like every time he touches the ice, Vlasic was just shadowing him, and
Team
you thought, okay,
Canada on two teams. Like this guy was a all-star, like yeah, underrated
yeah,
all-star.
no, yeah, no. I mean, Team Canada picked him for a reason, right? They paired him with Drew Doughty for a reason. So, I mean, Vlasic was a great player, and I think the projection on him was that his game could translate well when he got older because it was a lot on stick play, not. He wasn't a physical body checker, so you figured he'd have a lot of rubber on the tires. But boy, howdy, his skating just does not look like what it used to be, Al.
Yeah, I mean, his skating is not there, but also I just maybe the if his skating is not there, you would have thought that at least with his knowledge of the game, he would at least know, all right, Sidney Crosby's pretty good. I'm going to skate to this point because he knows his tendencies. At least he's going to outwit your opponent. And that's just maybe not a thing you get with defensemen. And the better long-term investment and the way to just grow with the game for a team is to invest with forwards. And that is something Doug Wilson does not like to do.
I think investing, and I'll do you one more. I think it's investing in centers. I think to me the most important position on the ice is your center iceman because he's the one that's going to dictate how you play in your own end off of a face-off. He's going to be the one that's going to dictate, okay, can I really distribute the puck? Can I score? Can I forecheck? So I think to me the best investment is the center. I think the second best investment is a defenseman, but I don't invest more than a 5-year contract on a defenseman because I think that they get a lot of wear and tear. And especially when night in, night out, you're going behind your net and you're getting forechecked on, especially in the West when you've got to be, on your toes because an Anze Kopitar's on your back going to forecheck you, or a Ryan Getzlaf's going to, slam you into the boards or what have you. So to me, you don't make as a long-term a commitment to a defenseman because of those issues about durability. And then I mean, I was listening to 31 Thoughts, the podcast, and listening to, I think it was, I don't remember who exactly it was. I think it was 31 Thoughts, but they're just saying that, look, I mean, the long-term play on a goalie is also, kind of dark arts, right? Because they're so inconsistent from year to year. So, I mean, I don't know.
There's been times
then,
when Carey Price's contract looked very grim for Montreal, but Montreal rebounded, and the team got better, and so did Carey Price. So I just want to kind of leave off on that. Doug Wilson playing career, he was an offensive defenseman, a Hall of Fame offensive defenseman, and he played against a crappy Chicago Blackhawks team, which often went against the Oilers. They got shredded against that team, and it kind of explains why for most of his big trades, he's often looked at offensive defensemen. Brent Burns, go down the list. It kind of explains his kind of philosophy around trading.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that he definitely has a weak spot for the offensive defenseman, and consistently has had. Well, I won't say consistently because he got Joe Thornton, right? I think the Joe Thornton trade bought him a lot of stock, but he has yet to figure out a true heir to that jumbo-sized hole. And God bless Logan Couture for trying. And then you had, maybe you thought, okay, Pav's taking the C, he was going to be, the transitional leader.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you don't resign him, and we kind of go through that whole rigmarole, and we could diverge into that and take a whole podcast on that. But for the fans listening, for everybody listening, we're at 20 likes right now. Let's say if we get to 30 likes, we'll pull out your favorite segment. And so you guys have your orders, okay? It is 30 likes and you get your favorite segment. Okay, back to kind of where we were going here. I think we were kind of finishing up the offensive defenseman talk. We were kind of
AJ putting down Brent Burns, Dan Boyle.
Yeah,
just go down the list.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that I want to touch on, again, to me, it's a roster construction issue. I always have said that this team is a center down. It needs another center to complement Hurdle and Couture.
Yeah.
And Dylan Gambrell has shown me flashes of being a good player, but he's just not consistent enough. What do you think, Al, on Dylan Gambrell's play and how he's filled in?
I think he's been decent, but honestly, we've kind of already seen what he's already been, a, top 6 or no, top 3 defenseman, or a third line defenseman, where you're barely going to get something from him. Someone you're going to pop in and out, but you're not going to rely on much for.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just a guy, he's just a, like if you're a baseball nerd or whatever, where you have a WAR status, I would say he's a 0, right? A 0 WAR, if to kind of coin a phrase there, and so there's just not enough difference makers right now, and I think that that's part of the problem with the offense. I think that that's why they're so bipolar when it comes to the offense. On some nights it can be very good. On some nights it's very lackluster.
Dylan Gambrell, he's played in 76 games, but's only had 15 points, a -11.
Oof.
So he's a pitch hitter essentially.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to expect much. And he's what is he? How old is he? He's 24.
Yeah.
Pretty old.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean this is the year. This is the make it or break it. So, we just hope that he figures that out sooner rather than later. But I think the ship has sailed on the Dylan Gambrell frigate there, the SS Gambrell, because honestly, I'm not seeing it from game to game, and he's a good kid, right? And he's a good college player. You can see he's got flashes where he just shows you what a great player he could be. But I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's just the speed. He's still adjusting to it. I don't know, but he's kind of left me wanting more from him. That's Felix asking about the youngsters. Al, what do you think about the youngsters so far? I mean, John Leonard coming up. We've seen a couple games of True. Balsers. I've liked Balsers' game. I think he's brought a nice little creative, a creative spark to them. But what do you what are your
Leonard
thoughts on
and
that?
Balser? For Leonard and Balsers, the main thing I've kind of looked onwards is, these are high draft. These are very, very high draft picks. I'm not really expecting much. I'm just kind of looking for if they can bring speed to the ice and create offensive chances. They've done that. They really have. I think they are going to be here for a little while. I expect them to be here, both of those players, Leonard and Balcers, next year. Get some experience, see how long they're going to be here, but they are not building blocks, to be frank. What I think is more addressing is just the talent issue. Hurdle, I think this is his now third game he's missed because of COVID, or second game. Second or third game he's missed with COVID.
I think it's his third game.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, though, and it's good that you bring up Hurdle, because I think this is going to be my last point here, and I think we should start to wrap it up soon. Unfortunately, we did not get to the 30, so you don't get your favorite segment piece. But, oh, there we go. Hi, Al. So I am concerned about what we will see when we get Hurdle back, because COVID does a number on your lungs and your cardiovascular system. And even if he's not showing full-on symptoms, I am a little concerned about what we're going to see from Tomas Hurdle when we get him back.
With athletes that have had COVID and then came back, there seems to be takes 1 or 2 weeks to get them to be fully 100. So I would hope that the Sharks organization is going to prioritize their health, especially with COVID. The good news is that if you've been following just the general global health news, it's probably around May where, if you hope the government is telling you the truth or not, that most adults can be vaccinated by May. So that probably goes along with athletes, goes along with health professionals. So you have to hope that most athletes are going to get vaccinated pretty soon. But that's just me speculating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also therapeutics now and stuff. So I think that Hurdle is in good hands. But yeah, no, I'm just concerned that they're, and AJ chiming in. Thanks, AJ. Bugner said that they're tentatively expecting Hurdle back for games against Anaheim next weekend. Says that he's had headaches but feels okay otherwise. So, like we said, we're keeping him in our thoughts, and hopefully it doesn't touch the lungs, because that crap can really shred the lungs. And that's so important for a hockey player, especially when you're trying to pump blood into those muscles. So anyways, Al, let me get your final thoughts on tonight's game, what you're thinking coming up, if you think that the Sharks can stand anything against Vegas, or if we're just in for a weekend of pain. But where are you at?
It's the second time I previewed a Vegas matchup before it got canceled because of COVID, but knock on wood.
Yeah, right.
Tonight's game was rough. I think everyone kind of can see that after we talked about it for 40 minutes, but this is going to be a rough season. I would say just come in with low expectations. Hope that Jones is going to rebound. I don't expect Dudman to start, but I expect him to start on the 6th, so the following game. Maybe you see something afterwards, but long story short, it's going to be a rough one. Vegas is very, very tough. They have 3 lines of solid playmakers on all fronts, and they are easy cup favorites. And we'll say, though, the Sharks have played very competitively. I'm just going to put it out there for the last 4 games. St. Louis, Colorado, Minnesota, these have all been tough games. So you can find me on Twitter at Al Martinet. I'm always talking hockey. I'm always talking basketball.
Video games, right? You're doing the stuff on Twitch. Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that's awesome because I think we share same love there of the video games. But yeah, no,
Of the
I'm
video
I'm
games.
also yeah of the video games. I'm interested to see what the response is on March or so. This is the first time we get to see the Sharks, take on the Knights after the Shimek hit. I want to see some piss and vinegar in their game. And I mean, I want them to play physical. I don't want them to go out of their way, to make hits because that seems like that's Vegas's game to get you out of position, and then they really screw you up in the slot. So I want them to have a controlled level of aggression, but I want to see the aggression there. You got to keep it low because I think that if they go into a track meet again, they're going to get burnt. So I expect 2-3, 2-1 kind of games, and you just hope that they can be on the right side of it.
I will say the
Jones.
chirping will be top notch against Kane and what's his name? God, Kane and
Oh, you're talking about
Vervaes.
Reeves?
Yeah, Kane and Reeves will be top notch. There will be some bet. There will be talk about Kane's extensive betting history. Let's just say that.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, you can find me at Eric Landi across all the social media garbage. Check it out. We've got some cool stuff going on. I've also hooked up with another podcast called The Genuine Draft, doing repping the Teal Town name there and talking hockey, and really injecting some fandom there, some Sharks fandom there. So that's pretty cool. But again, yeah, first and foremost, if you missed us or you just want to take us with you on the go, catch us on all of the social media platforms and, of course, all of the podcasting platforms. We are on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, YouTube, Reddit, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and, of course, at the website at tealtownusa.com. We really appreciate everybody's contributions. Really appreciate the chat, everybody chiming in tonight. Thank you very much, and we will see you after the game in Vegas.